All right, this is getting exciting. We're creating a class. We've got some properties there. You can now create instances and consume that class within your program. We did that right here. We got the course class. We went into the shell. We were able to create instances of that class. C1 equals a course, C2 equals a course, and so on. And we were able to get access to those properties that we've defined inside of that class. Now, let's take this a step further. This is great. Definitely, this is great. We can create properties or variables inside the class, and we can get access to those properties. Now, I want to change that up. Every course that we create, it shouldn't be Python. Maybe I've got a Python course, but I got HTML, I got CSS, I've got Excel, I've got a SharePoint course, and so on. So now when somebody creates a new instance of the course class, I want them to define what the class is. And then I want them to define who the students of that class is. I want them to do it. I don't want it hard-coded in the class itself. Now, there's many different ways to do this, but I'm going to introduce you to a very important function of any class that you work with. It's called the Init class or the initialize class. Take a look. So I'm going to delete these out. We don't want those in there. And I'm going to define a function. Remember defining a function earlier? This is a very specific function though. It starts with 2 underscores, INIT, 2 more underscores, and then I'm going to open up a parentheses. So this init function or the initialize function of the course class runs when you create a new instance of the class called course. Now, I'm going to put some information in here just for right now. And I am going to print something out here. Oops. Hello, course. There we go. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to save it. I'm going to hit F5. Starts my Python shell. And now I can say C1 equals course. Great. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and hit my enter key now. Watch this. I'm going to hit my enter key here. This is going to do something because we now have the initialize function of the class for course. So I'm going to hit enter, and there's my hello course text. When a new instance of course is created, such as here, C1 equals course, that initialize or init function fires. Runs right away. Done. Now that's, again, this is huge because we can now utilize that to initialize variables or properties of this class. Watch. So let's say I don't want to print anything, but when somebody runs or creates an instance of this course, I want them to supply the name of the course. So we'll say we got a property here for name or an argument called name, and we're going to have one for, no, actually let's just do name for right now. That sounds good. So here I'm going to say self.name equals name. And I'm going to do a self.students equals an empty list. All right, we had those two earlier, right? We had the name, but we defined it as Python, and it was always Python. And then we had one called students, which was actually a predefined list of student names. This time, when somebody utilizes the course class, they create a new instance like C1 equals course, they're now going to have to supply the name for that course. Then on top of that, we'll create another variable or property in there called students, which default is just going to receive an empty list. That's it. Now let's save this. I'm going to F5 and let's try it again. C1 equals course. All right, now I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to hit my enter key because we're going to get an error, and this will help explain why. I'm going to hit this. All right, so we got an error inside of here. So it says the initialize function is missing one required positional argument, name. Oh, okay. Well, let's try this again. I'm going to hop back in F5. Let's get a new instance of my shell there, and let's create a new course. So now I need to supply a name. So the course name is Python. I'm going to hit my enter key. All right, we'll say c1.name. There's Python. Let's say c1.students. It's an empty list. Let's see, I'm going to print that out. The type c1.students, and it's of class list. So we've got two properties in there. We got name, which is we're asking the user for. They have to fill that out. And then we've got this students one in there, which is right now just an empty list, an empty collection, empty string list. So again, it's huge. We're creating a class, and now we can start consuming that, and we can start filling out the attributes of that class, its properties. Give me the name. Well, we haven't done anything with students yet. We need to be able to start adding students there. All right, before we do that, first get this done. Let's get the initialize or the init function inside there. Remember, 2 underscores, underscore, underscore, init, underscore, underscore. We'll talk a little bit about this self keyword here. We'll do that next as we start working with the students as well. But let's get this portion done first. Let's get that initialize in there. Even try printing out the hello world and create an instance of the course class, whatever. And if you want to do more, maybe you want first name and last name in there. Actually, this is for courses. We don't really need that. You just need the course name. But let's create the course class and get the initialize function in there. And then we'll move on from there.